From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the daily news for August 19th, 2026, and these are the stories we are following at this hour. President Trump says the U.S. and Canada have reached a last-minute deal to delay 50% U.S. tariffs on Canadian imports. President Donald Trump said Tuesday he was delaying the 50% U.S. tariff on $20 billion worth of Canadian imports after the two countries reached a last-minute deal less than 2 hours before the sanctions were to go into effect. The announcement, which Trump made on his social media platform, buys time for more negotiations and avoids, for now, another strain in already tense relations between the historic allies. I have paused the 50% tariffs against Canada that were scheduled to kick in tomorrow morning for a 3-day period based on the fact that Canada and the USA, subject to the finalization of documents, have a deal, Trump posted on Truth Social. If they had gone into effect as scheduled at 12:01 a.m. Wednesday, Eastern Time that is, Trump's import taxes would have hit Canadian products ranging from hockey sticks to tongue depressors. But the political impact would have likely been bigger than the economic one. Canada had threatened to retaliate against any new tariffs with levies of its own, aggravating a trade fight between countries that sold each other $880 billion worth of goods and services last year. A White House proclamation said Canada had expressed a commitment to remove measures the Trump administration considers discriminatory against U.S. alcohol, dairy, and motor vehicle exports. Canada, however, did not immediately confirm those commitments. Turning to news from Texas, a Texas teenager convicted of fatally stabbing a 17-year-old athlete at a high school track meet is arguing that a judge did not fairly preside over the high-profile case and is asking for a new trial. Carmelo Anthony, now 19, was convicted of murder and sentenced to 35 years in prison after a Collin County jury in June rejected his claims of self-defense during a confrontation with Austin Metcalf in the stadium bleachers last year. Hearings on Anthony's request for a retrial and a new judge were set to begin Wednesday in suburban Dallas. Anthony's legal team has argued that a retrial is warranted in part because State District Judge John Roach enforced overly strict courtroom rules and gave incomplete instructions to the jury that convicted the teenager at the end of the nearly week-long trial. Jurors deliberated for less than 3 hours before returning the verdict. And finally, the floating tentacled predators pulse and swirl in hypnotic patterns, and I'm referring to jellyfish, in a dark museum space lit primarily by images projected on the walls and the glowing light from the saltwater tanks. Well, that was a direct result of mesmerizing jellyfish taking center stage at the first U.S. museum dedicated solely to the floating predators. The private Jellyfish Museum in Pompano Beach, Florida, just north of Fort Lauderdale, is believed to be the first museum in the United States dedicated solely to the translucent invertebrates, and one of the few such spaces in the world, according to the city and the museum's founders. It was created by Alex and Yana Yanovsky, who previously developed successful aquariums in Ukraine, including their first jellyfish museum in Kyiv. The couple left those facilities behind when they fled Ukraine following the 2022 Russian invasion, operations manager Jessica Eisenbarth said. The museum, which opened this past spring, is the couple's first aquatic attraction since immigrating to the United States, but they like to expand. That's the news at this hour. PEP Radio is available on the Live 365 app, the homepage at paequality.com, Roku, Alexa, and wherever you find streaming radio. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.